Hello, and welcome to the latest installment of the Aras Innovator Demo Series. We're going to talk this morning about flexible PLM. A quick note about the demo series: it runs for 30 minutes and features all demo with no sales pitch. Twice a month, typically bi-weekly, we show you a different capability of the Aras platform. Once the demo series is complete, you can always go to our website, www.aras.com/demoseries, to view the past demo as well as any upcoming demos. We have on the line today Lisa Costa, Community Technical Manager. Lisa, take it away.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, so the goal today was to, obviously, Aras Innovator, flexible, scalable, upgradable, lovely PLM system that it is. Today we're talking about the flexible part. So there's just a few things that I wanted to show from an administrative standpoint. So today I will be not logged in as a user, but I'm logged in as an administrator. So before we get started, I just want to show basically out of the box what a part looks like, because we're going to be doing a couple things to the part item type, and then we'll take a look also at a problem report, and then we're going to modify those. So when I look at the part, I have a form view, so I have properties and on the item that I can look at. I've also got relationships to other items in the system. And again, we're just going to take a look at how you can modify the out-of-the-box behavior and still guarantee that it's upgradable. And then we're also going to talk about creating new items as well. So this is an existing part, and we're going to do some changes to the existing part. Also, we're going to take a look at problem reports. So I want to show you an out-of-the-box, like how problem reports come out of the box of the Aras Innovator when you download it. This is what the form looks like. We're not going to modify that form, but what we are going to do is change the workflow. So our out-of-the-box workflow for a problem report follows CM2 standards. But if this is too simple for you or you need to modify it, you'll be able to modify it. And again, remember, any of these changes are fully supported by us under your subscription and fully upgraded. So if I'm an administrator and somebody has told me that we need to modify the part item type, that there's absolutely a property I must have that does not currently exist, I say, okay, I can do that for you. So I'm going to go into the part item type definition. So again, it looks very similar to the item types we looked at so far. You know, the general information about why parts do what they do is up at the top. You can see that it's versionable, the revision scheme it's following, things like that, the history template it's currently using. All of these things are defined by the behavior of the item. And again, this is how it comes out of the box. And it's also secure social enabled. So secure social enabled means that we have the ability to do views and markups and things like that. So all of that is defined with the item type itself. So now to modify some of the behavior for this item type, I'm going to make a simple change. We're going to do more things with a brand new item type later, but I'm just going to make a very simple, common change. So I want to add a color property to my item. So I tell it the name, then it's got a label. The label is what the users see. And then I pick what type. Obviously, when you're doing a property type item, an attribute or a property on an item, there's all sorts of different types. And the one I'm going to pick is color. And that's it. I'm just going to make that simple change. Oh, no, that's not it. Oh, that is it, yeah, because I don't want to unhide it yet. So it's unhidden. I just want to make sure it wasn't hidden. It's not hidden. What I want to do over here is modify. So I've added a property, but now you want to give the user the ability to interact with that property. So that's a matter of changing the form or the view for the part. And what you'll see here, this is the definition. The reason why I showed you what the part looks like before I edit it, you can see that this is what that definition, this is where that's defined. So here all I'm going to do is say I'd like to take my color property that I created and add it to this form. And that's it. So I've got a color property on my part item type. I've saved that change. Now I go over, there is no compiling of code. That is a direct change to the part item type behavior. If I come over here and look at parts now, the first thing you'll see is that it showed up in the listing for people to search by color, which will be a neat trick. And I do have the ability now to add color to an item. Great. So again, very simple change, but I hope the point of the demo is to show how easy it is as an administrator to interact with the behaviors, and to keep in mind that we encourage modification of the out-of-the-box behaviors if you need to fit your business needs, and we have no problem with that, and it's fully supported and fully upgraded. The next one, which is a pretty common thing to want to change, is the workflow map. I showed you what a problem report workflow looks like out of the box. So this is that definition of the workflow. So this is where an administrator would change the behavior of a workflow. So again, everything is permission driven. I'm logged in as admin, so I have the right to modify the part behavior and modify this workflow. But you can give different people the ability, like some people you want to add users, but you don't want them to modify workflows. You don't have to give somebody every capability. So it's very permission based, and I don't want you to think that everybody's going to be in there willy-nilly changing workflows and you don't have any control, because you have a lot of control over who's able to modify what. But in this case, as the admin, I am going to make a simple change to this workflow. I want to add another step to it. That step that I'm going to add is going to be called a quick check. Okay, and I can give it a label, quick check. So I have a new activity, so obviously I want to be able to get to that activity, so I'm going to add a path from the review, the PR, to the quick check. I'm going to add another path from the quick check to go right back into verify PR. I'm going to name this path verify. So once I do my quick check, I still want it to go through that verify step. Oops. I can typo all day long. And also I'm going to do name this one just quick. Perfect. So now the question is, who do you want to do that quick check, right? So what I want to do is I'm going to actually assign that to the creator. So what we're doing is we're going to have a review PR step, and it's going to go to the creator of the item to do a quick check to make sure it's really a good idea. So we're going to add creator to that. Okay. And that's it. So we took the workflow, we added the quick check activity, we assigned the creator, and now we're just going to go with that change. So let's go, I showed you an existing, so again, that change is for the PRs moving forward. So the PR I showed you a minute ago still has the old workflow map. If you needed it to modify that, that's a different case, but this is the case where this is how we used to do PRs, but now we have a brand new workflow, so we want new PRs to follow the new workflow, and when I say I want to create a new one, I save it, and we'll take a look at the workflow for our new PR. And there's our quick check. So now you see that it's immediate. We can change the workflow, and now we have that capability. Perfecto. All right, so those are pretty simple changes, pretty common changes. And also, so there's more complex changes. So for those of you familiar with Aras Innovator, we ship with out-of-the-box applications for product engineering, such as changes, parts, documents, right? We also have project management, MPP, tech docs. But what if you're a company that has an unmet need, right? So there's nothing that Aras ships that fits the need. Like you have a particular business process and you think it's a unique item type. It might leverage some of the other item types, but it's a unique functionality that needs to have its own definition, its own properties, its own life cycle, and maybe it relates to other items like parts or products and things like that, or projects even, but it needs to be its own item type. So this is the beautiful part of having a flexible data model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a new item. So I just want to show you it doesn't exist right now. So nothing up my sleeve. There's no test item type. So what I'm going to do is make a test run item type. So the first thing I want to do is I want to think about, whenever you're doing data modeling, of course, you want to think about what is the behavior. And normally there's more than just one person deciding that. You usually have users suggest functionality and things. So let's assume that we've done all that good planning. And now I need to make my test run item type. So that my users that create test runs have said they want to have numbers automatically assigned. They need to be able to select a test station. It needs to have a life cycle map and permissions associated with who has the ability to push the item through its different life cycle. And then we also have to have permissions from a standpoint of when it's in those life cycle states, right? So I'm going to lay the building blocks for this first. Order doesn't matter really, but I'm going to go into the sequences, and I want to make a brand new sequence. So again, a subtlety, but just so you know, creating a new item, whether it's a new sequence number, I used that same exact button to create a new problem report before. So a lot of the user interaction holds true for the administrator. So it's very easy to be an administrator. It's not a different interface. It's not even a different client. It's just different permissions. So I'm going to go in here and say that I want to create a test run. A test run sequence number. It's going to start with TR, and its current value is going to be 1,000, and it's going to increment by 1. There's all sorts of stuff, like so this one's going to do TR-1000, then 1001, 1002, I think you get the feel. If you have numbers you need to pad, like if you needed it to pad to 8, right, so you want it to be like 000, 1000, you can do all of that, but that's a simple case for us for our test run. The next thing I mentioned before is that we need to have the ability to pick different test stations. So what I'm going to do there is make a list called test stations. So the list is just going to be station A, B, C. Okay. So 1, 2, 3. The label can be different than the value, right? So I could either have the value be station A, if that's where you want it to show up in reports and things like that, or you could just give it a value of A, right? So when somebody picks station A, it puts A in there. It's up to you. Station C, and we put a C. Now, whenever you make a list, you can have a sort order. I mean, the most logical sort order is, of course, to see A before B, before C, but maybe that's not the way it is. Maybe B is used more often than A. Maybe you want it to show up first. Totally up to you, but that's what I'm going to use for my list. Your results may vary if you change them. So the next thing I want to do is come up with those permission sets about when a test run is being used, the permission sets of what people can and can't do when they're in different stages of the test run, right? So I'm going to create some new permission sets. I'm going to call it test run. I'm going to call it when a test run is planned, is the first one. So planning for test runs, I'm going to give it, there's 2. So I'm going to look for world or quality or admin. That's what I want to do. And that's just that vertical bar, it just does an or. So what I want to do is, for my permissions that we've defined as a group that the company needs, is that when a test run is in the planned state, we need world to be able to find them, so be able to search and then be able to open it up and look at it, right? But quality, people in the quality group should be able to update it, delete it. So that means, sometimes we run test plans, sometimes we don't. That's why we're giving them delete capability, right? So at that planned state, there might be a change in scope and we decide not to do it. So that's my test run planned. Then I can create another for when a test run is in progress. So if you're getting the head test run in progress, same thing, not same thing, but different permissions, but same groups. I'm going to go to world. Actually, owner is what I want to have here, not editor. Search for owner. So when it's in the in progress state, I want world. I've got to put permissions on world, owner, and owner. World and owner. Okay, so that's the owner of the test run. So again, same thing, world, people should be able to see it, should be able to find it and see it. That's everybody else in the company. But the owner should be able to get it and update it. notice we're not giving them the ability to delete it, because once it's in progress, we need to keep a track of it. So we're not going to allow them to delete once something has gone into the in progress state. And then there's only one place for test plans to go, and that would be when they're completed. So test complete. Test run complete, darn it. So when a test run is complete, nobody should be editing it because it's done. So we're going to say world, and world should be able to, everybody in the company, whether they're the owner or they're in quality, will be able to see it, find it, and see it, but nobody can edit them after that point. Great, I've got 3 permission sets. Now I want to actually set up the life cycle. Life cycle is a little different than we did workflow before. Workflow that we modified on problem reports was the signatures and assignments and things like that, and showing people's invest. Life cycle's got to do the state of an item is going through. So what I want to do is create a, like if we looked at, let's just look at one that already exists to show you an example out of the box. Parts go through a life cycle out of the box of preliminary and review released, and parts can be superseded, obsoleted, changed in review, things like that. That's follows CM2 standards again, totally modifiable, just like the workflows are modifiable. But that little workflow, that life cycle is not exactly workflow, it's the states of the item. So we're making a new one for our test runs. Shouldn't be a shocker that the name is going to be test run. I think you're seeing a method to the madness. From a permission standpoint, you know, I can say it's my, or a description, it's going to be a test run. And now what I want to do is create the life cycle it's going to go through. So we're going to start with planned. So test runs are planned. And when they're planned, the permissions that should be used is test run planned. Okay? They go from planned, they go to in progress. And when they're in progress, they're going to have a permission state of in progress. Shocker. It's really like no mystery at all. I'm going to add a state here. So when they've been run, they're going to either pass, okay, or fail. And when they're in those states, that's when we're going to use the permission set of, it doesn't matter if they passed or failed, they're still complete. So we don't want people editing the passed or the failed. So that's why we have that little permission state there. Okay. There's one more state I want to have, and then we'll tie them all together with the transitions, is I want to be able to retest. So sometimes we run a test and things happen and we need to retest it. So I'm going to create a state called retest. Retest. Okay, and when it's in the retest state, what we're going to do is we're going to give it the permission of the in progress, test plan in progress. All right, so now we have to answer the age-old question, who has the ability to decide when a test plan or a test run should be in progress? Who gets to take a planned one and put it into the in progress state? So that's going to be a transition. And we're going to say, what is the role of somebody who gets to decide when a planned, and I'm going to say, in this case, it's going to be the quality people. So the quality department is going to decide when we're going to run a test plan. When the person who decides whether it passed or failed is going to be the owner. Okay, and also here, so another transition to failed, and the role is going to be the owner. Perfect. Now, the people that decide when it has to be retested, I'm going to say it's the quality people that decide to retest. So it can go from in progress to retest. So I'm going to create a transition from in progress to retest, and I'm going to say it's the quality group that does that. They're the ones that decide when it has to be redone. And then because I need to come back, I'm going to actually create a break in here on that. Oops, sorry. Zigged when I should have zagged. I'm going to go there. So just so that we know that that's over there. And then to come back, We're going to add a transition back here, and this is going to be the role that's going to do that is owner. Okay, so I have my life cycle map. I have my sequence number for generating part numbers for test runs. I've also created my stations that test runs get run on. And now what I want to do is pull them all together into a new application or item type in this case. So behavior for a new item, again, it doesn't exist yet, but we're going to create it. So this is going to be an item type. So this is just like we looked at the item type part before and we added new properties to it. Here is a case of actually modifying the data model that you get out of the box with Aras Innovator and adding a new item altogether. So the item's going to be called test run, not a shock. We're going to give it a singular name of test run, and then we're going to give it a plural name of test runs. All these labels and stuff are what gets run by, you can use internationalization stuff to translate those without changing the name of the item. So I'm going to pick a default history template. Again, history is configurable as well. You can have different robustness in history for different types of items. I'm going to say it's an auto search type item. The max records going to return is 25, and the default page size is going to be 25. I'm going to give it a little picture so when people make a test run, they get an icon with it, and it's going to show up in the table of contents. So you got to, sometimes they're big, sometimes they're small. So there's a small icon and a large icon. I'm just picking ones that are already in the system. You can add your own icons if you'd like. So when I save this, what's going to happen is there's a lot of default properties that are created, system level properties created, so we see all that get automatically created. In my case, I also have some additional properties on top of the out of the box properties that get created. I'm going to go in here and say I have a test number. And that test number, if you remember, we said we created a sequence for that, okay? And then we have to tell it, if it's a sequence, you got to tell which sequence, right? So it's a test run sequence, again, not a shock. Also, I want to add a description so people can give it a little textual description along with our test runs. And that one is just going to be a text field. And then I also want to have the ability to attach files that are going to be the results of the test. And in that case, what it is it's actually another item you're linking to. So I actually am going to link to another item, and the item is going to be the file type item. So this is, I'm leveraging a totally different item type that it came out of the box. I didn't have to create that one to be able to use it, right? Next thing I want to do is just grab some of the, I'm going to modify some of the out of the box properties here. The owned by ID, I'm going to give it a label of owner, right? Labels owner, and what I want to do is unhide it so it shows up. And then I also want to take the state, and I'm going to call it status, and that's going to be our lifecycle state that we made before. So it's a status, and I also want to unhide that. We are almost done. I know that you're excited. God knows I am. So all we got to do now is give users a way to interact with our test runs. Meaning the form, like we saw before, there is a test run form that's made by default. It was created when I created the item type. Now I'm just going to change it a little bit. So I want to lock that, and all we're going to do, it's going to be very simple. We're going to say I want to have my test run number. I want to have my description. I want to have my test station. Did I add test station? Oh, I didn't. So it's not showing up. Hold on. Hold the phone. How'd you guys let me do that? How could you let me mess that up? So let me get out of there for now and come back into the test run item because I need to add test station to it. And so I forgot to add test station. That was my little list I made before, if you remember. So test station is a list. And if you remember, we made a test station list. I know I'm running out of time. There it is. There's the list. Got it now. It can't escape me. All right, so test station, so let's go back to the form. Now we go back to the form, test station will be there. Play our cards right. So I want to add test station. There it is. It's almost like I've done this demo before. So it's a list. So it automatically has the behavior and stuff and everything. So I got the number of the station, the description. I also want the results to show up. That's the ability to attach a file that has our results. I'm going to put that over here. And then I'm going to add our owned by ID. I'm going to put over here, and our state, what state it's in. Lots of ways to make this prettier, but due to time constraints, we're going to say we're not done yet. Why do I do that? Okay, a couple more things we need to hook up on this thing is that we need to just tell it what life cycle to use. Remember the life cycle that we made? So, so we need to tell it the life cycle that it should use is the test run life cycle, right? So we got that. So we tell it that. So it's life cycle. Then we have to say how do people get access to it? Who has access to them? If you remember, we put world as the ability to make these things. So we're just going to make the whole company, everybody in the system, be able to make them. Okay. If I gave it a category, it would show up already in something else that's already in the TOC. We're not going to do that. Then we also want to say who has the ability to create new test runs. Again, I'm going to be very, just going to say everybody has the ability to make them, but as we saw before, only some people have the ability to modify them. And then from a default permission standpoint, the default permission is going to be the test plan state. So that's what. So when it gets into that life cycle, what state will it fall into initially? I'm going to say it's planned, and that's the default permissions on that from a permission perspective. Okay. And if I've done this right, which apparently I have the ability to do it wrong, as we saw, I already have, there's test runs. It shows up in the TOC because I told it to. And here there are none yet, but I can create a new one. Now if I don't, the only one that's going to fill in automatically is the test number. I didn't make any of these required. I didn't do anything like that. I'm going to say my first test run. Right? I drop down list I created, the owner. I can pick an owner for that, and I can just actually make myself, because sound effects are always free. Make myself the owner, and then I have the ability. You can make files either relationships or you can make it a property like this. So let's say if I wanted to look for just a text file, let's say that our results are text file. I want to look in my folder for text file. I can grab my demo focus text. And there we go. I save that item. When I save that item, it automatically assigns the life cycle, right? So you can see here it's currently in the planned state, and it's got the permissions of test planned. And if I'm a member, if I am a member of the quality group, I would have the ability to promote it to the in progress state. And as luck would have it, I am. So now it's in the in progress state, which automatically changed. So again, a very quick example. We're out of time, but just to show you that again, this item type called test run. You can make it a change controlled item. You could make it be able to be linked to a problem report, right? All that kind of stuff is doable. And because of the Innovator platform, it's supported by our support group under subscription and upgraded when you go to the next latest and greatest version of Innovator.
Thank you, Lisa. Everyone, make sure to enter in your questions that you might have into the Q&A panel after seeing that demonstration. We are out of time, so I'm just going to take the first two questions we have here. Any other questions will be followed up on. Are those modifications to the data model both changing the out-of-the-box part and problem report workflow and the creation of a new item type for test runs, upgradable for Aras subscribers?
Oh yeah, I covered that, yeah. So definitely upgradable. I mean, that's the good news. You can modify, that's the flexibility of the platform. We let you use all of the stuff that we use to make our applications, the out-of-the-box applications, and we support you modifying what we have and also creating your own applications like the test run example. Yep.
And then you wouldn't make changes like that to a product system. How do you get modifications to the Aras Innovator system from your test environment into your production environment? Also, are there any licensing restrictions on having multiple Aras environments for things like development, test, and production.
Yes, I would not recommend making a change like that to a production system and have users have test runs just show up. And you'd want to test it out. So the most typical implementation of Innovator, there's no licensing restrictions. We let people have a development environment, a test environment, production environment. Usually there's only one production environment. That's the one that's, but you can use the licenses on several because we know people need to test it out in a real world environment before they roll it out. And then we have it a capability to package items. You can add items to a package, so it's very easy to take that little test run application, add it to the item type, add it to a package, and then apply that package to a running system. That's also, if I showed you real quick, if you go to our website, like when you look at our projects, that's how we can package up functionality that people can get access to, whether it's other users or people internal to Innovator. You can see here, workflow. So this is how we let people take functionality from one system to another. So it does make it very easy to roll out incremental differences.
Okay, thank you for your questions. I apologize for any of the questions we didn't get to today. I see a bunch coming in, but we will follow up with you. I'm going to leave you with what is upcoming. On April 19th, we will be going over program management, and then on May 3rd, we will be going over MRO with the Aras PLM platform. Again, you can register for upcoming webinars and view any past webinars at www.aras.com/demo-series. We would love for you all to join the Open Aras PLM community. We've got blogs, knowledge bases with a lot of good information, forums, community projects for you to access and contribute to when ready. Be sure to follow Aras on social. You can find us on LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook, where we are looking to share with the community industry-related news and articles, latest information on Aras news, product, assets, and more. With that, we thank you for joining us today and look forward to having you on next time. Thank you and have a good day.